We'll call the meeting to order. This is the East Lyme Board of Selectmen meeting, regular meeting of March 3rd, 2021 by Zoom. It's starting at 7:30 p.m. I don't believe there's any additional agenda or consent calendar items. Any delegations from the public this evening?
Mark, pledge allegiance.
It's not on our agenda. I'll be happy to throw it in. So we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Daigle. Any delegations this evening? And if not, the approval of the minutes, the special budget meeting of February 8th.
This is Kevin Sir. I'll move to approve the special meeting minutes of February 8, 2021 as submitted.
Paul Daigle, second.
Motion's been made and it's been seconded. Any comments or corrections? All in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. Consent calendar.
This is Kevin Sir. I'll move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of March 3rd, 2021 in the amount of $71,119.31.
Mark Salerno, second.
Mark Salerno seconds. Mr. Siri made the motion. Any comments? All in favor say aye. Oh boy.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? We got a close-up, Mr. Salerno. That was nice. Very good.
Mark,
New business.
Are we missing Sandy?
Yes, she's asked to record it. I think she's traveling and she's trying to get back to her desk, but we are missing Sandy. We are recording this meeting for her to take the minutes.
I'll try and I'll at least draft movers and seconders of everything then. So
again, she's going to watch the tape and take the minutes from that. But you're welcome to do that.
Only because occasionally we've had tapes that they disappear.
That's true. That's true. Thank you.
Yes, Mark, a point of order with Mrs. Hardy on silent. How are we getting her vote?
Hey, Mrs. Hardy. Mrs. Hardy, if you could unmute yourself. *6, I think, is how you do it, or you hit a button. We'd like to hear from you, Mrs. Hardy.
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah, I did vote. I didn't realize you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, we still had you on mute, apparently. So thank you, Mr. Daigle. Mr. Daigle keeps me very honest, let me tell you.
Honest?
Keeps me on my toes. So you voted to the affirmative with both motions we've had this evening? Which would be
Yes.
the minutes and the consent calendar.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. New business, then, bond resolution, bond refunding up to $16 million. Anna, I know you're here to bail me out on this one.
Hi. So once again, an opportunity has presented itself for us to do a refunding. As you see by the resolution, we're asking for up to $16 million. It includes 3 pieces: callable bonds, which means that they're bonds that we have outstanding that per the bond agreement, we have the ability to refinance them now. Believe it or not, the Clean Water Fund debt that we have with the state of Connecticut for various projects, we currently have 4 loans that are in repayment. We have the ability to refund them as well. They're currently at a 2% interest rate. When we did the numbers, they were projecting that we could get as low as 1.12% for them. However, in order to refund state, those bonds are with the state, so in order to refund those bonds, we have to get permission from the state. We have submitted that request to the state. They've acknowledged receiving it. So what that means is they're reviewing their entire book of business, because they're going to tell us when they will allow us to refund them. So we're expecting that to be somewhere between 30 and 60 days out. And then there's another piece, which is an advance refunding, which means that you have the ability to refund bonds a certain period before they're actually what they call callable. So at the point in time that we did the analysis, we were anticipating an 8.1% savings on this entire deal. However, the marketplace, as you know, changes daily. So we are going to continue monitoring this to see how the savings plays out up until the point in time that we actually move forward with the refunding. Because as I stated, we have to wait until the state gives us their permission to do a refunding on their bond. So what they're going to do is they're going to look at their entire book of business, see what they have going out, see what they have coming in, and then make a determination as to when they'll tell us we can move forward with this deal. So in any event, that's pretty much the story. I don't know if you have any questions.
Are there questions?
Yes, Anna, are the other two refundings tied to the state? Do they have to all go together, or can you pursue those while you're waiting for the state?
So we're going to have to actually, once we hear back from the state as to when they'll allow us to do the refunding, if they're, and depending on how the market goes, we might look at the piece that we can just do on our own and do it now, and then perhaps later, because every August we do go to market, maybe we can tie the remaining piece to that deal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And a question for you.
Sure.
This sounds great. Does it push out our payoff date at all, or is the payoff date of these bonds still be the same, just at a lower rate?
That's exactly it. When you do refundings, you're not allowed to extend your payoff date, so they would mature within the original term of the debt.
And that's good to know. And when would the savings be realized? Would it be starting next year's budget potentially?
Okay, so here's when you do a refunding, what we're going to do is we're going to look at our entire book of business and how it plays out budget-wise. And so we have a couple of peak years that we're going to have to deal with because of all the school debt that we've taken on. So we're going to try to manage it so that we can take some of that, more of that savings in those peak years to help us out with our overall debt picture.
Smart. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, this is Kevin Siri. I'll move the following. Move to approve a bond resolution with respect to the authorization, issuance, and sale of not exceeding $16 million Town of East Lyme, Connecticut general obligation refunding bonds. A copy of the full text resolution is attached and has been on file in the office of the town clerk for inspection.
Mark Salerno, second.
Motion and seconded. Are there any further comments or questions? Thank you, Anna, for all the work you've done on this. All in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? I see it as 6-0. That's what I heard. Thank you. We need to ratify departmental transfers of $215,235.43. I believe that was in your packet. We had a lot of things in our packet. Was everyone able to see the departmental transfers?
Yeah.
Are there any questions for Anna? Okay.
This is Kevin Siri. I'll move to ratify departmental transfers in the amount of $215,235.43 processed for fiscal year end June 30, 2021, attached hereto as Exhibit 1 and forward to the Board of Finance for approval.
Mark Salerno, second.
There's a second on that motion. Any further questions?
Just a quick question. What are the zoning items in WSP bill? Exceeding zoning budget.
Okay, so there's the marker 7 case. Hold on. Marker 7, landmark 3, and then the Drabic Tower.
Okay. What does WSP stand for?
Waller, Smith, and Palmer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
And that was a good question. So these are all legal bills. And Mark, as a former chair of zoning and myself before you, we've struggled with this a little bit, that when there's a major zoning issue, we defend it through the zoning legal budget. But then when it goes to an appeal, it goes to general government.
Correct.
And we've kind of reversed our thinking on that, because when we get an FOI saying, where's all the legal bills for zoning or for a particular case, which would include the appeals, it's better to have them all compartmentalized. So we've shifted some of the legal budgeting around. It's still a legal bill that needs to be paid. And it doesn't mean we're doing more legal bills. It just means we're identifying them through specific departments, and it makes much more sense for the general public who might be looking through our bills and have every right to, or an FOI request.
No, it's good. It's easier to track it.
Yeah,
So.
and that's what it is. And you saw that reflected actually in the budget that we reviewed earlier. Under general government, we increased zoning's budget for this very reason.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll call a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, great. Then we get to the meat of the budget, which is, well, the meat of the business tonight, your agenda, and that is your budget discussion, deliberations, and the approval of next year's fiscal year budget. Anna went ahead and again, I mentioned this before we started the meeting, just casually. Anna went ahead and kind of itemized some of your items, and I want to make sure you've all seen that. And I got so many emails and attachments that I've had difficulty finding the one I'm trying to put my hands on. So
You're not alone.
Okay, I know there's. Oh boy, I want to make sure we get this, Anna. So
Anna's attachment was sent in an email, the second email from me this morning. So I sent 2 emails this morning. It was the second one.
So in the second one, we see adopted. And do you know what it's called? Adopted budget.
It might say agenda item 2.
Oh, that didn't come out.
We got something from Anna directly. Is that it?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got it,
Okay.
it looks like this. And right down here indicates
Yeah.
the 78,765,645 looks like the current proposed Board of Selectmen budget, which also includes the Board of Ed.
Correct. I'm having trouble opening it up. Anna, do you want to run through it? Do you want to just highlight what we're seeing?
Sure. So all the way, there is a column on the worksheet for notes. And so you'll see many of the budget accounts, which are primarily salary accounts, are all labeled with UPSU contract. So as you remember, at your last meeting, you ratified that 1-year extension, and they received it. We're getting a 2.25% general wage increase. So I went through all of those different line items and made the change. And then corresponding, you'll see the Department 120, the payroll contingency, that line item was decreased by the $59,498 that was disseminated through all of the different budgets. And then Department 114, we were able to make a reduction to the health and dental care account because we received some updated information from the state. While the rates are not finalized, the information was more favorable than the percent increase that we had originally used in the budget. So I went back and recalculated, and we were able to make that $34,403 reduction in the health insurance account. And then in the emergency manager director line item, we noted that they had included a 2% increase to the stipend. Typically, we do not make any increases to stipends, so that's why you see that $200 reduction there. And the note says GWI applied to stipend. Then Department 999, which is the Board of Education, the $128,000 reduction that's noted there, that would be the Board of Selectmen making the reduction that the Board of Education made to the budget. The original budget that was submitted was the superintendent's budget. The $128,000 reduction is for health insurance. The Board of Education made the same percentage reduction to their side of the book. Police accreditation. I do believe we had some deliberation at your meeting when we discussed Department 114. We put a new line item in the legal area of that budget for $25,000. That's the estimate that the police department obtained from a specialized law firm to assist them in going through the accreditation process. We're expecting that to take a couple of years. I did have another conversation with the chief to confirm that he was comfortable with budgeting for half of that $25,000 in next year's budget, and then the same the following year. And then in addition to that, you'll see a $5,000 reduction for the library budget. I have reviewed this with Tara Borden, the acting director. We were able to make that $5,000 reduction to their budget. Again, that's related to the health insurance. You'll notice Department 522, we do have plans to issue some debt in this August. And so after reviewing that and looking at what the current market rate environment is, we were able to make a reduction there of $83,887. And then in reviewing the expenditure side of the town aid road account that we had in Public Works, it's actually $1,488 higher than the governor's projected revenue for that program. So that's just making the reduction so that the revenues and the expenditures for that program will equal. And that explains the different items that you see itemized on your sheet. Oh, the town aid road is not on your sheet. I found that later in the day, and so I just updated my sheet. I did not send the board an additional updated worksheet.
We're probably going to need a number for those, right? Do we have the number for that one?
Yeah. So the reduction is $1,488. The original proposed budget was $340,144. With the reduction, it will be $338,656. So then that has the total proposed budget at $78,764,157.
Don't we usually keep Board of Ed and town government separate?
Yeah, we do. This is for your bond. This is for the front page when we do the Kevin, in your motions, is Board of Ed in there?
Yeah, in the motions we have 4 lines. We start off, we move the total amount, And then it's a breakdown by general government, debt service, capital, and then Board of Ed.
This worksheet was a means to just let you know what's been updated so far. This gives us a head start on work tonight, but
Okay.
we should probably now just open up the floor and find out what else you're thinking about when it comes to this budget.
I'd like to review review the revenue account, which I don't believe we discussed previously, unless I zoned out.
You might be right.
That is, I know, on either count.
No. Definitely didn't mean it that way.
Well,
You're still
I
sharp,
did.
though. Very sharp, Mrs. Hardy. Let's talk about the revenue page. Do we have an updated revenue page, Anna, in our books?
Yes.
Once I updated it for the state revenues, I did send the board members an updated copy.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think I saw that. I worked off from the one that was in our budget book.
Right.
Okay.
Me too. I have what's in front of us. Were there some particular items that you think need to be focused on?
Well, yes, there are 2 or 3 items that I wanted to have further information on. Let me get my ruler so I can follow across here.
By the way, Anna sent the updated one on February 16th, if everyone has your email open.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I noticed that with the town, let me see, where is it here? Wait a minute, I think I've got the wrong line. A town aid road assistance. I noticed that we have that budgeted, at least on my sheet, for 340,000 plus, which is the same as it was last year, but we haven't been getting that amount of money. The past couple of years, they've been holding the money, and we have, at least we haven't been told that we've been receiving it. So now I see it's at 0 because it's a 0 increase. But do we know whether or not the state is up to date on paying us this amount? Is this something we can count on?
Anna, you and I talked about this earlier today. There was a different figure than what Joe had given us on the town aid road. But yes, we've been getting the town aid road.
If you look at the revenue worksheet, there's a column that says actual 20, which is what we received last fiscal year. So we did receive the revenues. The state has been paying them. The 1 year that they held back, they just paid us very, very late.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Good.
I noticed that the Pequot grant is what we've been receiving in the past, so that's good news. Then I come down to building permits. And I see that the actual in 2020 was 660,000. And then if you follow across, unless the numbers have changed, we originally projected for 2021 361,000, and now there's now we're at seeing a $130,000 increase. So considering that, and actually in 2020 it was at 660,000, and now we see it dropping to 361 and then back up to 482. So for an increase of 130,000, which still seems from the 660 to the 492, that seems like a considerable drop. And that goes to my concern about increasing the amount of money increase in the building department. So if in 2020 we were handling 660 plus, and now next year we project 492,
Correct.
that's still much less than what we were handling in 2020.
2020.
So I'm not going to be in favor of supporting as large an increase in the building department as has been proposed. So when we get to any revisions, we can bring that up again if other members agree with me.
Oh boy, did someone whisper in your ear, Roseanne? I think Ann and I spent more time on this line than any other line in your entire book over the last couple of days. We've been talking about this particular issue. The 660, I got to tell you, is an anomaly. Okay, that is the year of Costco, of apartment buildings, of big. You know, when a developer walks in and gives you a six-figure check, it really throws off your budget. To the positive, but it throws off your budget. We're looking at maybe going back down. I think we increased the revenue $130,000, and from the 361 that we proposed last year. I think you're right. I think it's a little high. I don't see any major projects coming down the line. In fact, with maybe the highway construction starting, that there might be a shift. And maybe with the economy bouncing back and people getting back to work, people are a bit less likely to build sheds and decks and maybe go on vacation instead. So it is something we talked about. Anna, we were talking about maybe cutting that in half.
Right, so instead of proposing 492.5, proposing 427,500, so reducing it by 65,000.
And my office would be in support of that. Roseanne, you have always been a mind reader. You've been at this game longer than anybody times two. So yes, exactly. It's not your first budget. It's not your first rodeo. It's exactly what we were zeroing in on, and I was going to bring that up. So if we could reduce that down and cut it in half to $65,000 increase, we would be comfortable with that.
Actually, nobody's been whispering in my ear. Most people shout at me. But I didn't base my decision solely on that. The fact, if we were going to increase that budget by that amount, there's also a heavy burden on planning and zoning, and we're not increasing their assistance at all. So that was what I based my comments. My thoughts on.
Okay.
And then the other thing I'll just notice is that this would be under tuition other districts. I note a drop there in tuition payments. So I think we don't know the reason why, but it doesn't seem that the high school population is decreasing that much, but that just caught my eye, along with no transportation subsidy. What's up with that? I don't know where I don't know where that comes from, but that's showing no money. Well, showing $269.69. So it's gone from so. It's practically, it's wiped out.
And was that a one-time deal?
No. So what that has to do with is transporting our waste to the SCARA facility. So in the past, they would give us that as a revenue. And so starting with next year's budget, they're giving us a reduction in our billing. Well, actually, they started with this year's budget. So in other words, every month when they send us the bill, they're netting out that portion that's relative to the transportation fee. So instead of receiving it as a revenue, we're receiving it as a reduction to what they're billing us.
I see. Thank you for the clarification. And I just have one more thing, and that would be if you're referring to the budget book that we received, the tipping fees, commercial. I noticed that that is down by 20,000, and I wonder if that is because, as we discussed at a couple of meetings ago, that we are picking up at town's expense. We're allowing businesses to put their trash out by the roadside. So
That was talked about by Mr. Regard did mention that, and there's more businesses that are taking advantage of that. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a 20,000 drop. If
Yeah.
okay, just pointing it out. That's all my comment on revenues. I'll yield the floor.
Mark,
Yeah, if I could just comment on the Board of Education tuition projection. So that's tied to the number of students that, we're anticipating to receive next year. And when the Board of Education made the estimate, they reduced that number by, I believe, 10 students, because it typically ends up that all of the students from Salem do not come here. Some of them end up going other places. And in years past, without making any reduction like that, then on the board side, they've overprojected that revenue. And then in addition to that, there have actually been a couple of families that have moved from Salem to East Lyme. So now we can't bill Salem for the tuition.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so those were my comments on revenue. As I said, I'll yield the floor to someone else.
Well, do you have anything on the expense side, Roseanne?
For revenue?
No, on the expense side, in the budgets, is there anything that you'd like to open up and talk about?
No, I'll yield and let somebody else
Okay.
have the floor, and then if it doesn't get brought up, then I will.
Okay, thank you.
I hardly ever won playing Monopoly, so
Okay.
I don't want to take my chances.
All right, take a chance and go. Mr. Siri, I saw you trying to get the floor.
Okay, it was a tie between Paul and me. Paul, do you want to go first?
I just have one question on the reductions that you presented, Anna. Quick math, it looks like it's about $136,000 off the town side, minus the 128 for the school. And that comes out to be about a 0.5% reduction of what was in our books from where we started.
Yeah, so on the town side, it's actually 53,931 is considered general government, 83,887 is debt service, and then the 128 to the board.
So, but on the town side, between debt service and general government,
Right.
136 delta, which is about a 0.5% less than what is in our books for the total increase this year. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Siri, sir.
Okay, Mark, I've talked to you about this. I see the need at town hall for a little bit of assistance there. And I talked to Anna about this today as well. And Mark, I ran to you about a possible floater for town hall. This week, Monday, we had a situation where one office, both administrative assistants called in. So there was no administrative assistant down there. In the town clerk's office, there's the two of them. But if Karen or Brooke were out and then the other one had to take the day off, there's no one that can go into the town clerk's office, which is an extremely busy place. And then we saw last year, there's a couple times during the year where there's needs in the assessor, the tax collector's office, January and July timeframe, the town clerk's office, a little bit of extra busyness in June with the dog licenses, and this past year, and I would think too, with possible election time, it gets busy. So I'd like to bring up possibly a 20-hour floater. It would have to be a union position apparently, and roughly that would come out to about $25,000 a year. I'd be in favor of at least discussing it at this point.
It's, what do people think? I mean, as the manager of the building, I'll definitely weigh in, but I'd like to hear what other people have to think about that.
I'd like to chime in. Thinking of the fact that our population has increased greatly since we began reducing our employee staff. We originally had 2 secretaries for the first selectman, plus a full-time receptionist who could direct people when they came into the building. We also had a couple of other additional positions that have been filled since then have been, for instance, IT, but they're specific departments. And I think, particularly the town clerk's office, if there should be a day when, it happens, something comes up personally and then someone else gets sick, the town clerk's office would have to be locked. So I think it's a smart move that we have a floater who for the first 3 or 4 weeks learns what the needs are of each of the departments and then is available either for extra help or to cover in the case of illness. And I also think, of course, now we have the building locked, but I'm thinking about security at Town Hall. And, before we had a receptionist, she had an emergency line there that if somebody came into the building that, let's put it nicely and say, wasn't behaving, immediately that person could call for assistance. So I think it's time that we really considered that. And I think safety-wise, I think it would be a smart move. Those are my comments.
I'll concur. Having been involved with land use for a long time, I know that office sometimes, what Kevin was saying, sometimes there's no people in there, and that requires some of the department heads to actually man the desk, which doesn't allow them to do their job efficiently. I know there's been a request for it for a while, and my guess is it probably will also alleviate some unnecessary OT that we accumulate, that now we could actually have a part-timer fill those voids so there may not cost us as much as we think.
Well, at 20 hours a week, that would not be a benefited position, would it?
No.
No.
It would not.
Okay. So it'd be straight salary.
Correct. Or hourly.
Mm-hmm.
I would support.
Okay.
I would support that, Nish. I support that as well. You have to have adequate coverage at the town hall, and there's always going to be situations where someone in a department is out, and you have to have coverage. And I was looking at the revenue side. The dog licenses are down about 15,000. Is that just related to COVID, or is that because there wasn't adequate access to the town hall?
I asked Karen that last week, and she said there has been a lot less people, calling to mail their stuff in, and then they never mail it in. She said there's a lot of people that have not normally come in for dog licenses because of COVID.
Yeah.
Feels it's attributable to that. There hasn't been that many of those dogs in town, that's for sure.
Yep.
So before I weigh in on supporting or not supporting this, how often are we diminishing this services to people coming into town hall based on having 2 people out at the same time or whatever the case may be? How often are people turned away and can't get their individual concerns addressed because we don't have this person to fill in for unplanned absences?
It's a legitimate question. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. And the clerk's office had 3 people in it for forever, and we've cut that down to 2. The assessor's office, 2 admins, and then the department head, assessors, tax collectors, the same, and downstairs, 1.5 administrators. It happens, and when they're out, we are scrambling. And in Anna's office, I mean, you can't train people to do everything, and they're not going to be able to. if there's a body there answering the phone or telling people we can't help you today, but let me take your name and number and we'll scramble it. At least they're being served in some capacity rather than a locked door. You know, this has come up before. I said we can get by. We do cross-train our people. The tax collector ladies help out in the assessor's office and down at the town clerk's office as needed. They helped out during the elections. Everybody was on all hands on deck during the elections.
So
But,
what would
you know,
20 hours a week cost in a salary for the year, roughly?
Well, 20, what did you figure, Kevin, hourly?
I figured 20 hours a week, and then I gave that number, how much would that cost to Anna? And Anna figured it in basically at the, Anna, you started basically the starting level for an admin assistant.
Yeah, okay, so, it depends on what class we would, place the position in within the bargaining unit. So if we had it be a Class 6 position, it would be a $25,501 salary with just about $2,000 in payroll taxes. And you know, it's going to be a challenge to determine, you know, where to group the position. But when you think about it, just about every office has administrative assistant positions. So if we had a floater position, and the floater was going to be filling in for all Class 6 administrative assistant employees, it would make sense to have the floater position be a Class 6. Because since it would be a bargaining unit position, if we had it, let's just say we said we wanted it to be a Class 4 or a Class 5, well, every time the floater filled in for a Class 6 position would have to do a salary upgrade as per the collective bargaining agreement anyway.
Could this be an hourly position, paid hourly rather than salary?
It would be paid on an hourly basis, but if we made it a 20-hour-a-week position, then, you know, we would be obligated to have work for that employee to do for 20 hours a week.
Because with an absence in the office, I could see this person coming in for 37 hours one week, but maybe not coming in at all, coming in as needed, but estimated half the time. And I could see that. Listen, this is the same year where the Board of Ed is adding 12 full-time positions for a variety of different new initiatives, and we're scraping to try to talk about a half a position needed, because we've cut about 4 or 5 positions out of the town hall over the last dozen years or so. So I would support it. I would support it, and I could work with the union and then bring someone on that would be appropriate. Have the department heads chime in and where he or she would be working, and I'd make it work if it's supported.
Mark, one of the things when I was talking to Anna earlier today is if the position is approved, then the department heads can figure out where best this person could be as the year progresses. You know, for instance, you know ahead of time. Right. Especially in the clerk's office, Karen or Brooke are gone for 2 weeks. You're going to need help in there. Same thing possibly in the tax collector's office.
Right.
We do that. So
they can fill in.
So at 20 hours a week, mandatory work, Anna, how do you make sure the clerk does their first 20 hours on Monday through Wednesday, and then someone's out sick Thursday and Friday? How do you?
I mean, it would be, so let's say it's a 20-hour-a-week position, so the employee would work 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And so if, let's say, for example, and, you know, you'd have to come up with, do you want the person to come in at 8 a.m.? Do you want the person to come in at 10 a.m.? You know, work 10 to 2, something like that. Whatever is going to, you know, like best meet the needs of the department. We would have to have a somewhat consistent daily schedule, I think, you know, to make it work for the employee.
So 4 hours a day would help workload whoever happened to have a peak workload that particular time of the year. But in the case where we have multiple people out at the same time, we would only get coverage for half a day.
Correct.
Yeah, and I don't envision it that way. I would envision looking for someone with flexibility. And I mean, what's the point if if the citizen's coming in at 3 o'clock and finding the door locked, how do we make anything better by only having that person work 4 hours? I would think we'd be looking for flexibility, no more than 20 hours a week on average over 52 weeks a year, and try to find flexibility, kind of like a substitute teacher. And maybe there'd be a guarantee in there, and maybe, you know, we'd have to evaluate quarterly where we are on pace with that person. But I would use that person more as a substitute, and listen, everybody's entitled to vacation, so we have plenty of vacations for coverage in there. But I don't see the point of bringing someone in from 10 to 2 every day, because if there's an office that is not manned, sorry for the term, doesn't have people working in it, what's the point of opening it up for only 4 hours a day when somebody might come in at 8 a.m. and someone might come in at 3:30 p.m. and find the door locked? But I'll work with the unions and try to create that flexibility in the position. Bottom line is, you're asking to support a part-time floater, and I support it as well, and let's put it in the budget. And I'll figure out the management side of it.
I agree
Sounds
with that,
good.
Mark. The 10 to 2,
Yep.
It needs to be flexible. So
It needs to be flexible. We'd be looking-
otherwise, we don't want to be trying to find this person work when we don't need work, when they can
Right.
work Monday, Tuesday, right? That becomes more of a hassle on the department heads to try to make work up sometimes. So
Right.
flexibility is very important.
Just past what I did last fall, when I came back as a temporary retired worker for the state, I was given 40 hours of work over a pay period, so 2 weeks. And, you know, I would schedule it, you know, I'd sit down with the person in charge and say, best figure out how to work those. It might be I'd work 4 days of 8 hours one week and then a little less the next. Now, to Paul's thing, yeah, you might still have an issue where you're going to have days where you can't cover everything, but it will allow you to plan for known instances ahead of time, and in a lot of cases, an unknown, something that pops up at the last minute. But I think that's where, I think Anna made a good point today when she pointed out, that's where if it's approved, that's where the department heads sit down with Mark and come up with a workable schedule that benefits all the departments at Town Hall.
Anna, where would you recommend we put this in the budget? Under what
Why don't we put it in the selectmen's budget?
I was thinking that too. Okay. As add a part-time executive assistant line item there?
I think it would be, we would consider it a part-time union position.
So,
Do we need another, do we like in 101, 100 personal services, do we need to add another line there?
Yes, if it's gonna, so if you notice, like all of the accounts that are listed on that worksheet that you were provided with, all of the last 3 digits in the account number are 311, which is kind of like, that's like the UPSU union, you know, identifier. So I would suggest an account with the same series of numbers for the selectmen's budget.
okay.
So under 100, add a 311, admin clerical.
Yeah.
And then under 22, you said it was 26,000 something, or 25,000?
Yeah, you had.
It would be $25,501.
So we'd add that to line 104, Mark? Department 104, admin clerical?
No, 101 under personal services in the first selectman budget.
Oh,
Add 311 under part-time clerical at 311 with a line item of 25501, which would increase the first selectman's budget to a total of 196,937. If I did my numbers right.
what was that again, Mark? 196?
196,937.
And the payroll taxes, Anna, will have to be covered somewhere else, or it's?
Yeah, that's in department, yeah, so the payroll taxes are in Department 114.
Okay.
And that's 114, 100, 121.
What line was that again, Anna? 114?
Yeah, so it's 0101, 114, 100, 121.
Okay, the thing I have
And
shows
that,
it shows 127 in the one I'm looking at.
The FICA, the care?
127 is the health insurance account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. FICA
Okay,
Medicare.
I'm looking at the adjustment one, I'm sorry. There it is. I got it now.
So again, how much did you say we would add to that? We have $732,035. We're gonna add 2,000 or so, you said?
Well, 1,951.
So that will be bumped up line on page 114, FICA Medicare will go from 732,035 to 75154. And that'll bump the personnel service total to $4,457,478.
All right, let's keep it moving along. What
Okay, so we
Yeah, Kevin, you
got
still
those
have
in
a
there. And I don't think we need a motion. We've added it to that. Once we approve the budget, I
right.
think we'll be all set with that. So that was the only comment I had. As far as reductions or anything like that, it's really tough when I look at what, Mark, I think you did a really good job in this budget as far as looking at needs. I mean, the police department showed extensive needs, but they're phasing it in. They're not looking to
Right.
put the same thing, and they talked about the dispatch concerns. Here again, phase it in. We addressed some concerns with Parks and Rec where they wanted to make an assistant director. I think that was handled really well. To, not do that right now. I think it's really hard to find anything to reduce concerns. Comments regarding the Board of Education. I mean, that's a significant increase. Here again, I understand their concerns and their needs very much so, because like I said, I spent 14 years on that board, and I realize that, we always think they're looking for a lot more than they need. That's really not the case. The only thing is there's a lot of certified staff in that budget, new stuff. And, I don't want to shortchange the needs of our students. So that's just a concern I have right now. That's all.
I would share that concern. I think I think I can speak a little more freely now, as I don't have any potential conflict, as I'm no longer employed by the Board of Ed. But I think that I think it's too much. It's as Mark said, 12 new positions. These are all, for the most, not all of them, but I think it's too large an increase for just financially for what the town can afford at this point. There are other needs too that are hanging out there that aren't addressed even with that increase. So we can make comments, and I think that those are my comments, that it's too much, too fast, too many new positions created that they aren't going to be one-year positions. They're going to be on and on. And I think that there are many academic needs at the secondary level that aren't addressed. It's very heavily weighted towards special services.
And they cut 128,000 from the superintendent's proposed budget. Didn't we know what area they cut?
Yes, health
Oh, sorry.
insurance. Health insurance, 100% of that is health insurance.
That's right.
None of the proposed services or ideas were cut. I made a comment, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I made a comment during that presentation about the summer school initiative they're trying to put together. They'll be fully paid for by a grant, but that grant could fully pay for some other of their initiatives. In other words, it is an add-on, and while it is being paid for by one of these COVID grants, if you will, support grants, that same money could be applied. It's not specific to summer schools. It could be applied back in for some of the social work needs or some of the other needs that they're identifying. Maybe summer school is also going to be a need, but but it's a lot. It's a lot if we're trying to maintain a budget, and frankly, it's it's a 1.7 and 1.8 million dollars more than they got last year. So it's a lot of money.
So, example, I think we've heard the reason why we need more police officers. And the approach we've been taking here is a phased approach where we know we can't get from where we're at to the 4
Where we
officers.
should be.
Right, where we should be in 1 year. So we're doing it a phased approach. We added some officers last year. We're adding some officers. We're asking to add some officers this year. I concur with what you guys said with the Board of Education. Maybe a phased-in approach, especially with the times we're in right now, would be more appropriate because they spelled out the need. But we have to factor in the taxpayer too, so I concur. Mark, Kevin, I think you said it right too. I went through this budget pretty close. Usually I find a few things to cut or add. I'm glad that we brought back our contributions to the nonprofits in town and the community, fully funded, and I'm glad we're still funding the Samuel Smith House. I know that one's been on the burner. We're continuing to fund that. I agree with increasing the police officers. The information technology, I know is a big item. I'm okay delaying that a year. I think that makes sense until we kind of know what our full needs are. I think also, that took a back burner too with everything going on with COVID. I think when we get through this, we'll have a better idea of what we need. So I concur with that. The Inland Wetlands Agency, I agree, Mark, with your approach. I don't think we should hire someone right now. We don't know the full impact, but you mentioned before that we do have the services of the COG, I guess.
Yes.
And that was something you brought up last year. So that's a great benefit to the town, and I think that we may need to use it this year, and I think that's a responsible thing to do. That's all I got right now. So, but I do agree. I would like to add that part-time position that Kevin brought up.
Thank you. Any other comments on the Board of Ed presentation and budget? I'd like to consolidate all these comments so that so Sandy can isolate them and put them with their budget as we move it forward. Because again, we can't cut the Board of Ed budget, but we do move it along with comments. And I think we have a lot to say this year more than any other year. So I'd like to move those forward.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Am I? Yeah. So I would agree that, the COVID relief funds, I think if they could be redirected to help offset some of the instructional services that are required and are needed, and I appreciate that and understand it. It would be nice if they could do the summer school program. But, some of the other municipalities, boards of education, they're using that COVID money to offset some of the existing additional expenses that they're having in instructional areas. And I think we have to look at that as well and try to try to reduce the overall budget, using that as one alternative to do that. So I would recommend that they look at that as a possibility, to reduce the budget.
Okay. Any other comments on the budget specifically?
On the overall budget, or just
We got the Board of Ed budget, so nothing else on the Board of Ed?
The only question I have is the Board of Ed budget that was presented, did that already have the 128,000 taken out of it? So their net budget increase is 4.05%, or is it reduced by the 128?
Andy, you have that number?
It's like Anna's frozen.
Uh-oh.
I believe that, I don't think it was part of our budget package that we have, our binder.
I think that's a new reduction.
Yeah, I think that they're taking that as an offering of a budgetary reduction.
So if that's the case, unless my math is wrong, that reduces their budget from 4.05 to 3.79.
I think it's about right. Anna, is that the right number? No, you're still muted. But you're not muted. It doesn't show you're muted, but
Right.
your connection's off, Anna.
Our sound is not there.
You're going to have to go out and come back in maybe. All right. But I think you're right, Paul. They do go under 4.0 on their percent. And it is in the 3.7, 3.9, whatever that number is.
So I agree. It's a bigger dollar amount increase. Our increase is about 3.7%.
Yeah.
Population. So they're not out of whack percentage wise. From an increase standpoint, dollar wise, of course, it's more. So if we have comments that we think that they're adding too many people, they could end up with a budget increase less than what we're recommending in our budget, which would be a first since I've been on the board, and it could be a first in a long time.
There's been a couple years that's happened, Paul. I mean,
Not recently, though.
no, not recently.
Well, I think your comment is very astute that 3.7% of our budget compared to 3.7 of their budget is quite different in dollars and cents.
It is, yeah. And, at that type of increase percentage-wise to the taxpayer and to our employees who live in town that are getting 2.25 every year, someday we're going to have to figure out what services both the school and the town, our taxpayers aren't going to be able to afford to have, because it seems to be outpacing, the general increases of wages. I don't know about the general public, but certainly on the employees in the town. School budget increases may be higher than 2.25%, but it's,
Right.
We've benefited in our budget with, the retirement of senior personnel taking on more than one job. We've really squeezed down what we want town staff to do, and we know that has to increase. But I don't know, going forward, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be a breaking point someday where the budget, some people in town aren't going to be able to afford to fund the budget. And this year, we don't know what the mill rate's going to be because, the evaluation has increased, so it may not be a net increase to the mill rate with that positive gain, but nonetheless, that's where we're at.
We've got about a $0.5 increase on this budget. It's like 0.55, is it, Anna? 0.53, somewhere in there. If you take the numbers that we have right now, and we're adding some money back in, but we're taking some money back, and we took the revenue out. So that will move some numbers around before we finalize the calculation. But we're about a $0.5, maybe 0.6 mils. Based on what we know today. And of course, again, the Board of Finance still has some work to do. Let's talk about the rest of the budget so we can kind kind of not wrap it up. I'm not anxious to rush you through the process, but to keep the conversation going. Mr. Cunningham, I was talking about Board of Ed specifically, but then it seemed like you may have had some other highlights of the budget you'd like to discuss.
I was just going to make the comparison that, how the police department had a plan over time to increase the police officers, and how the, Board of Ed should maybe look at trying to do the same thing with increasing their staff. But that was the connection I was going to make.
It's a good connection. Thank you for highlighting that again. I think that's important. I think the police, I'm biased. I was on the police commission before we voted to take the first selectman off the police commission. But I think they did a very good job of actually thinking this out, doing the research, and then presenting the responsibility of our responsibility to properly man a police force. So there you go. Are there any other cuts, additions to the budget?
I'm just wondering, considering the police accountability, the bill is still working out the specifics of that, and we also have the fire study underway, which I think is going to come forward with some suggestions. Do we feel confident that we have enough money in the budget, including with contingency, that we could cover those needs and comply with particularly the police accountability bill?
Police accountability, Chief Finkelstein's done a terrific job of looking that over, researching that. It's multi-year phase in for some of the things, like the big accreditation. But body cameras, as you know, we've already financed, and many other things are baked into your budget, the budget you have. You'll see some significant increases in that police budget based on the police accountability. If there are any grants introduced during this legislative session, if they do fund some of this, because this is an unfunded mandate going to each of the 169 municipalities in the town and in the state, we will take every advantage we can of getting some grant money or finding ways to work with other communities on whatever it might be, especially training and such. But yes, for the police, short answer, yes. For fire, let's see what the study comes out with. I'll make note that Waterford has moved to they're looking for a fire administrator, much like we talked about, a full-time position, about $100,000 a year plus benefits. We might get to that. We'll see how the subcommittee does, and we have probably we're a year away from talking about it, adding a position. We do not have that budgeted.
Yeah. I just don't want us to be so strapped that we don't have any movement for any emergency that might arise. You obviously can't predict these things, but I want to make sure that we have a little bit of wiggle room.
So,
go ahead.
Let's talk about that. We did talk about the contingency. We did put in a healthy $175,000 of contingency, and you as Board of Selectmen know that we tap that through the year because things do come up. We might have a long-term absence of a firefighter or a police officer, so therefore we need to fill positions using overtime, and that blows out a budget in a particular department. And then things come up, whether it's servers blowing up or whatever. We have a healthy contingency. It's a proper way of managing. We have very tight budgets, and then we have along with the Board of Finance, have the control to allow that $175,000 to be spent, but with oversight. So I'm confident that our contingency will get us through the year.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up. It's something we did want to highlight today, is that we do feel like contingency is very, very important. I mean, we scrape the bottom of the barrel with these budgets. You all know that. You're not coming with a list of things to cut because there's not much there. Frankly, I don't think there's anything there, and I think you agree. So The contingency is important, though. When you're running out, we're talking about a budget season that doesn't even start till July. It goes to the following June of 2022. A lot can happen. And as we move out of to COVID, who knows? Who knows? It'll be good to have that safety net, and that's our safety net. So, are there any other cuts or additions for the budget?
Anna, what's the, with what we've done tonight, what's the general government budget?
Okay.
Just for
Is
general.
is her equipment still not working properly?
She's there, I think.
You hear us, Anna?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay, Roseanne was getting, yeah.
Ugh.
If she needs a little bit of time to figure this, do we want to move on and then come back to this?
I think we're just totaling things up so we can make a motion, unless,
Yeah, I think that's
unless
where
you
we
have
are.
something else, Roseanne. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I mean, I've got
I would
debt service, I've got capital, because that didn't change, and I've got the Board of Ed, so just give her
Yeah,
time.
so first of all, I think it would be appropriate for the board to make a motion to accept all of the changes, per the amendments that you made. So based on what you originally provided, I have that you added the part-time 20-hour-a-week position and the associated payroll taxes for that. So the overall net decrease to the total budget would be $238,026. And so if you could just make a motion to accept those changes, and then I'll give you the breakdown for the budget.
You want to include the revenue change in the same budget, in the same motion?
We could do that if you wanted. So we would. So
I think we should keep revenue separate.
Okay. I'll take motions if you want.
I'll make, do we want to give a dollar figure in this, Anna, or do you just want a motion to add the 20-hour position?
Yeah, so the total impact of everything that has been itemized, meaning the list you provided, and then adding the part-time position and related payroll taxes, would be a decrease of $238,026.
To the general government?
To the total budget, including the Board of Ed.
Okay. Because then when we move to approve the budget, we have to break all of them down.
We'll
to-
separate it up.
Yeah.
And I'll provide you that information.
Okay, Kevin, sir, I'll move to accept the amended amendments to the budget, the Board of Selectmen budget adjustments. We're adding the position of 20 hours for an administrative clerical position and associated payroll tax for a net reduction of $238,026 to the town budget. 2021-2022 town budget. Is that good, Anna?
That'll work.
Okay.
That's close enough.
Mark Salerno, I'll second.
Thanks, Mark. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Is there a motion to reduce the revenue projection by $65,000 out of the building department?
This is Kevin Siri, so moved.
Mark Salerno, second.
Like clockwork, guys. Any comments? Questions? All in
Good
favor,
job,
say
Roseanne,
aye.
catching it.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Okay, were those the only two adjustments you were gonna make tonight?
Well, then now you need to approve the budget, so I'll give you the numbers.
Okay.
So the general government budget will be 19,584,123. The debt service budget will be $5,720,993. The capital budget, $683,113. And the Board of Education, $52,803,380. The total budget being $78,791,609, for a total budget increase of 3.41%.
Anna, could you give me the debt service again? Because you cut out on me just a little bit there.
$5,720,993.
Okay. Okay, this is Kevin Siri. I'll move to approve the proposed 2021-2022 town budget in the amount of $78,791,609. As follows: general government, $19,584,123. Debt service, $5,720,993. Capital, $683,113. Board of Education, $52,803,380, for a net increase of 3.41%.
Mark Salerno, second.
Motion and seconded. Any further comments? Well, I'd like to put on record that I commend Anna Johnson on the fine work she did putting this budget together, helping me, but doing the heavy lifting. We are grateful for your service, Anna. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? I see it as a 6-0-0 unanimous budget. Thank you all for taking the time. It's a lot of work. It's a long season for us. We try to do as much of it as we can up front. So, and we've been at this for a little while too. Roseanne, your estimation, what number budget is this for you?
We do it every year?
Yeah,
I guess this would be 35.
this is your 35th budget. Good for you. Let's go to ex officio reports.
Someday I'll want to know what the budget was, her first budget number was.
Yeah, let's go back 35 years and look at the budget. Of course, they'll just blame you, Roseanne, for increasing the budget so much because you were part of it. 35 years, my goodness. Ex officio reports. Are there any to report?
None from me.
Just jump right in if anyone has.
Real quick. Oh, yeah.
All right, I will be brief. Commission on Aging, they have been able to borrow a van from the town. They've been able to get another van from the Board of Ed. They were Kathy was able to, I should say Miss Wilson, was able to get the vehicle registered the new vehicle registered day before yesterday, and that should be ready to go on the road after I think the town garage takes a secondary look at it. That should be ready to go on the road. Am I correct in saying that our town insurance policy is going to cover the repair charges?
They will, less $500 per vehicle.
And so that will, all right, so that will be our responsibility to,
Yeah.
so
I do budget.
that,
I do budget for insurance deductible, so we'll have that covered.
okay. Because when many people in the public heard about this, there were offers of donations to get the buses back on the road, which I thought was I thought it was a really nice gesture. I had several people speak to me saying that they would donate because the vehicles were essential. So that means that they're really doing a good job of providing a service for people that need it.
Indeed.
Zoning is has the continued public hearing tomorrow night on the proposed what do we want to say, mixed-use building development that we talked about at the last meeting on Boston Post Road, what was originally the rectory for the Catholic Church that was there. So that will be discussed again tomorrow night, and the rest of their agenda isn't overly extensive. So that's my report for tonight.
Thank you, Roseanne. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll report, Dan Cunningham. Let's see, I attended the Historic Properties Commission last night. They're still working on a grant proposal for the Samuel Smith Farmstead. It's been submitted in December to the state of Connecticut. It's not yet approved, but it's pending at the state level, and they're hopeful that they'll see some fruit from that grant proposal. Another thing, there's a initiative to do something called the pollinator pathways, and it'll be wildflowers that are planted in areas that are, not used for any other purpose, borders around certain areas, that'll attract the bees and will help them to pollinate the vegetables and vegetable gardens and crops. So that sounds like an interesting endeavor. And then there's a community garden down at Samuel Smith Farmstead. They'll be leasing out plots to citizens that want to plant crops and vegetables and these raised plots. And they're going to donate 10 plots for the Giving Garden to benefit donated fruits and vegetables to places that can distribute that to people that need it. So they're doing some nice things down there. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Anyone else?
Real quick, library is waiting on us to open up town buildings before they open back up again, obviously. I'll talk building commission. Paul and I went to quite exciting meeting. We even had a Zoom bomb in the middle of it. But I'll just talk about the Board of Ed, or the elementary schools, and then I'll let Paul, if Paul wants to speak of the public safety building. Pretty much, you're probably wondering where they are with that. There's like 3 last items left with the schools. One is fixing some PA issues at Lily B. Haynes. There's some floors that are going to be refinished at the end of June when school's out, and I think the gym. And then they had to fix some insulation on one of the roofs during construction. Some birds did some damage to it. So hopefully that's closed out soon, and I'll let Paul talk about the public safety building.
I'm not going to go through line item by line item, but just big picture of the $301,000 contingency for the project. They have encumbered about $165,000 of that. Not every dollar has yet been approved. There's a couple items they still have to work on. That leaves $135,000 of contingency left. The project is slightly ahead of schedule, and the team feels it's going to come in under budget. In addition to that 135 that's still remaining, there's the communication budget is just about under purchase order, and that's running almost 36,000 under budget as well. And several of the items outside the general contractor, clerk of the works, connecting the water supply, they all are coming in at less as well. So even though we've used a little less than half of the contingency, other areas of the project are coming in under. And so I think they're in very good financial shape right now. I know there was some public Facebook discussions about the building being in terrible shape. They certainly did uncover some issues that weren't evident between wiring behind walls and gypsum board that unless you took it apart and looked at it, you didn't know it wasn't fire rated. So those things have been addressed. They're in part of that $165,000 I talked about. That's mostly encumbered, or it will be here with a couple more votes at their next meeting that they wanted some more information on. So all in all, I would say that the project is progressing well and it's in good financial shape. Certainly open to any questions anyone may have.
Make a comment that I appreciate you bringing that up. It's amazing that one member from the public who doesn't know what he's talking about shows up to your meeting and then comes and reports out nothing but misinformation, and it's taken as gospel and fact. Thank you for being that person who's kind of steered this project all the way through. We'll be proud of this building. We'll be proud of the work being done and that it's being done and will be completed earlier than anticipated. Middle of the summer, we anticipate moving in. And we won't be asking for any more money to finish this project, and we will not leave the project half done, to answer critics. So thank you, Paul. Thank you. We've been at this, we just passed the 2-year anniversary of the initial referendum to buy the building. It was February 20th. 2 years ago. So we've been at this for a whole long time, and a lot of people put a lot of work in. It's appreciated. Are there any other public delegations? Did I hear from everybody?
Mark,
Someone tried
if there,
I think you meant to
I'll
say
wait.
ex officio.
I was just wondering, Paul, if there is money left, if it might be possible to do some work on the second floor.
Right now, the second floor, once approved, the fire marshal's office is going to be on the second floor. Based on the growth in the police department, it's going to be up on the second floor. 2 office spaces and a storage area in the lobby off of where the elevator is going through. As far as there was a discussion about replacing the LED light fixtures upstairs, which they're doing downstairs. That was put on hold pending to see how we do with the budget. I would think to go beyond the scope of the budget, I think conversations will have to be had, with Mark and the town. We don't know how we're going to purpose that second floor. We could put light fixtures in and then have to take them and move them later on, depending on what functions we put up there. So no planned additional work on the second floor at this time, but certainly something that can be discussed going forward, or the money can be returned to the general fund, the contingency fund, and see what other needs the towns may have as this project finishes. So I think that's a good point to understand what we want to do with the money if we come under budget with.
Thank you.
Any other ex officio reports? Well, mine is, well, I have just a few. Kevin Booth was a long-term server of the town, of his neighbors, and we wish his family condolences. He was a former selectman. He was a former chair of zoning, I believe, and many other things in town and in our regional community. So we wish, again, his family our best. And thank you, Roseanne, for pointing that out to me today. I don't read the paper as much as I used to, for a variety of reasons. I may have missed that. So thank you. The Niantic Bridge construction. will begin Sunday. If you plan on visiting your friends on the shoreline to the east, you must go up to Route 1. Do not cross over the Niantic River Bridge or you'll end up in the water because the bridge will be open. So, and the rope ferry will not be operating. So there's an announcement there too. Roseanne, you would appreciate that. The rope ferry will not be operating and the bridge will remain open for 2 weeks. But all our friends in Waterford, we're going to ask them to take a canoe over because restaurant week is starting tomorrow night. Or tomorrow lunch, I guess, is restaurant week, or breakfast even. So Niantic Restaurant Week is an 11-day celebration of the restaurants in our town. Could you, as select men and women, please spread the word through your social media and maybe get some to go during the week and take your favorite people out for dinner. Usually the selectmen find a place to go, but I think with everything that's going on and not all of us have gotten our vaccinations, I don't think we should all get together at a table, wipe out the whole town leadership with one cheeseburger. But please go out there and it starts tomorrow. And if you're so inclined, there's a passport that you can download online and get it stamped at all the different restaurants that you go to, and you submit your passport at the end, and they're giving away some gift cards back to some of these restaurants. So we're encouraging people to do that, and by all means, please do it. And please go visit our restaurants. Lastly, my office has been in disarray for a week now, as throughout the whole building in the town hall, if you've had the chance to be in there, we're replacing the ceilings from those small, 9-inch squares to the regular suspended ceiling and putting a better HVAC distribution system, blowers in, so it doesn't sound like rain's coming down when the air conditioning turns on. You've experienced that, all of you have. So that's the case there. That's all I really have. I appreciate all your service. I appreciate all the work you put in. We do go to public delegations now. I did see Bruce. Did you have your hand up, Bruce?
Yep. Yes, I had my.
Yes, sir.
hand up. This is Bruce Dassinger.
Your address, sir.
12 Stonecliff Drive, Niantic. I've been a resident for 50 years now. 2 years. I was down at Dare Pond walking today, and I happened to see something I think would be interested in. Right off the parking lot, in the parking lot, a lady drove up with her 2 sons, and they got out, and then they took 2 chainsaws out of the back of the vehicle. And so I asked what they were doing, and they were about maybe 13 and 16 maybe. And I said that they were going to clear a bike path or clear it out so they could go on clear out a bike trail. And it was really fun. So it was on obviously the town part of that parcel there. I just wanted to let you know that that was going on, just in case there was something you had to attend to.
Thank you.
Yep, that's all.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Yep.
Feel free to reach out anytime, as we talked earlier. It's wonderful. So thank you for your service. Anyone else from the public like to speak to the Board of Selectmen this evening? I don't think we have anybody else. Appreciate your patience there, Bruce. If nothing else, I think the next thing we're supposed to do is adjourn.
This is Kevin, sir. I'll move to adjourn.
Mark Salerno, second.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Good night.
Favor say aye.
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 All right.
Always unanimous with this group. Go figure. Guys, thanks. I'll see you out at those restaurants, and give me a holler if you need me.